evening, ladies and gentlemen. We've invited first class, now we're inviting executive platinum, emerald, sapphire, and ruby.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Crew Travel right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and I'm very pleased to welcome back my co-host, the jolly Lee Harris. How are you?
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. And that was slightly Christmassy, jolly, I'm hoping. Yeah, I liked it. It's nice.
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention the red nose, but whatever. And I have to mention that Crew Travel is brought to you weekly by Blue Marine Travel, who haven't lost a passenger since Lee and I were born back in the late 1900s. So, Lee, last week it was, and of course things changed very quickly within about 3 hours of our interview going live, which seems to be the case straight across the board right now. I mean, it is, things are just, I don't even know. It's like 1 minute to the next. Things are changing. But once again, South Africa is top of the list.
It is, yeah. Like you say, things are changing extremely fast in the travel industry at the moment. And like you say, last week we announced the news that Qatar Airways were going to be welcoming back South African travellers to let outbound flights departing Johannesburg and Cape Town. Again, like you say, unfortunately, only a few hours after we recorded the show last week, Qatar Airways reversed their decision, citing operational reasons. That's all they've said. They've not said anything else. Currently, there's no further word on when the service is going to be restarting. So apologies to any crew whose hopes were dashed after last week's episode.
France, what's going on there?
Yeah, this past week, due to the ongoing Omicron variant and the spiraling numbers in the UK, France have made a decision to ban UK tourists from entering France, further stating that travellers only with compelling reasons may be allowed to enter. Now, I have done some digging and I've spoken to Sarah Camper and Nicholson's, who always helps me out with anything for France. And she has told me that as of this time, seafarers who are working on yachts in France are allowed to enter. You will need a PCR test dated no more than 24 hours prior to travel and a further PCR test on arrival. The need to self-isolate will be for at least 48 hours whilst the second test result comes back. Crew will also be required to register prior to their departure on a digital platform specifying their address where they will be staying in France. This platform will be used to generate prefectural decrees requiring all travellers, both vaccinated and unvaccinated, to self-isolate in the place of their choice. We will give the website. It will be underneath the podcast and also on the Blue Marine Travel website. So if anybody needs it, you can find it there. Other documentation needed to enter France as a seafarer is a letter from the captain stating your position, and it has to be in English and in French, your contract of employment, a letter from the local agent, and also your seaman's book. So lots of hoops to jump through for UK crew if they need to travel to France as of this time.
And the name of your firstborn that you're going to be having 20 years from now. And it's insane. But you know what? I mean, it's we're seeing it happen straight across the board. It's not just France, it's other countries as well. And there's more and more paperwork involved. And, you know, I think it's really going to be limiting world travel to a certain extent forever, because we are seeing, you know, this is year 2 now. You know, we're seeing new strains of this virus come through. Of course, that's to be expected. It's a virus, it mutates. And that's just going to continue on. So yeah, we're just going to have to get used to it.
Yeah, I think so. I can't see anything changing anytime soon, unfortunately, and that is really quite depressing, isn't it? But yeah, like you say, there's going to be new strains coming out. There's going to be snap lockdowns. Netherlands have gone into one just overnight.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't give any information with regards to seafarers and how it's going to affect anyone there because it's still quite new. So as soon as we do, it'll be on LinkedIn. It'll be on my LinkedIn, Blue Marine, obviously, as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's just literally playing it by ear at the moment, you know. It's difficult to plan anything because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, because I mean, the Netherlands, that was the shocker for me. I think I just saw it on Friday that all of a sudden they had made this announcement and I didn't realize, like, I've seen the numbers coming out of England. And how, you know, it was like doubling and tripling, but I guess I didn't really pay much attention to the Netherlands. But then all of a sudden there's this big lockdown announcement and it's just a week before Christmas. So I can imagine, and not a lot of people are happy about that.
Exactly right. Yeah. And I think it's almost a month long, I think, as well. I think it's still about the 14th of January. So, you know, again, it's quite a long one. You're looking at nearly a month of locking people down once more. Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, everybody will behave themselves, but we'll have to wait and see. It's difficult, isn't it? It's easy for me to say, but when you're into your fifth lockdown, it must be very, very difficult.
Well, 'tis the season too, right? I mean, this sort of season is not the season that people are happy to stay indoors. Maybe it was in like February or March or something, but not over the Christmas season.
Exactly right.
We'll see. You know what? I mean, I'm waiting for announcements for other countries as well. Usually one country starts and then the rest start following behind fairly closely.
Yeah, I think so. I think especially Europe as well. I know that there's pressure being put on certain countries, Germany and Austria, for two that are definitely looking at locking down. But whether they do or whether they don't, or whether they just ban certain passengers or not, I guess we'll see in the coming week.
Right. Singapore Airlines has some news.
Yeah, Singapore Airlines have announced that it will launch flights from Singapore to Perth under the vaccinated travel lane arrangement a month ahead of schedule. So a little bit of good news. The flights will begin on February the 5th and will be operated by the B787 aeroplane. There will be 17 weekly VTL flights from Singapore to Perth. Now, the VTL program was first introduced in August 2021 and permits fully vaccinated customers to travel quarantine-free to and from Singapore. That's provided they meet several criteria and are tested both before departure and after arrival in Singapore. Singapore Airlines further stated that they will be adding Brisbane and Adelaide to their VTL network from 15th of January, Houston and Manchester from the 19th, and as we said, Perth from the 5th of February.
Wow, so that's opening up quite a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, Singapore Airlines seem to be moving forward, shall we say. Let's just hope, fingers crossed, it doesn't take steps back like other places.
And Emirates, they have some good news for the Seychelles.
They do, yeah. So I know full well that there's quite a few yachts and crew in the Seychelles currently. And this week saw Emirates announce plans to boost its flight schedule to the Seychelles over the peak holiday period. So from December the 24th through to January the 9th, the airline will look to fly to the island nation twice each day, which basically means they're doubling capacity on the route. And
there is some news out of Italy, and I think it's good news because I think really we could be avoiding all these lockdowns and the virus mutating and running everywhere if we did this everywhere. But Italy with COVID tests.
Yep. So European nationals traveling to Italy will now have to test for COVID-19 before their trip and present negative test results upon arrival in Italy. That's regardless of their vaccination or recovery status. The move was taken on December the 14th in a meeting of the Italian Council of Ministers, who also agreed that travellers from other EU and Schengen area countries should be subject to the obligation of quarantine in cases where they haven't been vaccinated or recovered from COVID-19. For those who also come from EU countries but are not vaccinated, it will not be enough to show the negative swab to circulate in Italy, but they will incur the obligation of quarantine. Not only that, but vaccinated travellers will also be asked to show the negative swab result on arrival.
I mean, it makes sense. And this is what I think part of what really has bothered me lately is that, you have these people going against anti-vaxxers. Oh, you're putting everybody's life at risk, blah, blah, blah. Well, at the meantime, people that are vaccinated have every capability of carrying the virus themselves as well. So it only makes sense, especially when we're talking air travel. Get tested. Everybody should be tested, vaccinated, non-vaccinated. It really doesn't matter because we're all capable of carrying this virus. So if we know before we get on an airplane, whether or not anybody on that airplane has the virus, that's good, a good thing. Then we can leave them behind and the rest of the people can go COVID free. Yay. I mean, it just makes sense. And I don't care where you're from. I mean, whether you're from a town over and you're just flying within your own country, it should be mandatory that everybody has a COVID test, period.
Yeah, I mean, like we say, we're 2 years into it now. So, I mean, there really should be procedures. Tests can be done quick enough, like we said before. So, yeah, I mean, just add it into the check-in process. I mean, even throw in the test cost into the price of the flight as well. Do it as one whole thing, straightforward, nice and simple, you would think anyway. But for some unknown reason, there's countries or there's airlines or there's airports or whatever who obviously don't think it's a good idea and think it's probably better not to do it. But
well, I think, when you think about it, the only reason that this virus was able to travel from, China, as it supposedly originated from, to everywhere else in the world was because of travel. So, you know what? I mean, the fact that it's circulating and circulating and circulating, it's because of travel. So, you know, get the source, make sure that when people are traveling, they are COVID free. And hopefully with, you know, the lockdowns that are happening around the world and people taking, you know, the right precautions, we can stop this. But nobody can get on the same page. It's another cluster beep.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest problem, isn't it? There's not one coordinated attack on what to do with travel. There's not, you know, from airline to airline, from government to government, from airport to airport. You know, there's not one single hymn sheet that everybody's singing from. So it, you know, one, it makes things misleading for passengers and for crew traveling because there's so many different rules and regulations and hoops to jump through. But then, like you also say as well, you know, not doing the PCRs. I'm not saying that's the whole reason why countries going into lockdown and all the rest of it, but clearly it plays a part in the fact that you know, it is traveling around the world. So if we can minimize it, like at the end of the day, you're not going to eliminate it. But if you can minimize it by doing a PCR test before travel, then so be it. You know, like I said, add it into the cost of the ticket or you know, the process of checking in or whatever, just to make things a little bit easier.
Yeah, like you know, now you have to have, and you know, I have one, but you have to have your little thing passed to get into restaurants and bars and so on and so forth. And it's like, well, if you have to have, it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense to me. But once again, queen of the world, law. Lufthansa, what's going on there?
Yeah, major news this week came from Liverpool, whose airport has lived in the shadow of Manchester in recent times. Lufthansa announced they will be operating a flight from Liverpool to Frankfurt starting on the 4th of May. I'm a little bit early on this, but it is good news for crew because we do have a lot in the Northwest who struggle to get to and from their home airport because it is really underserved massively, I've got to say. But so Lufthansa's arrival into Liverpool will be a massive boost for the crew who are based in the northwest of England, where Germany's national airline will now provide Liverpool with global connections, both for departing and arriving travellers. Again, this just basically is going to help crew massively in the northwest, as it will mean not so many lengthy commutes to more well-served UK airports.
I think that was the one that I had trouble saying last time, and I just rolled off the tip of my tongue.
Getting better, that's what it is. Like, we've only been doing it for 2 years, Ria.
Look, you hardly recognize many of the names I call you, so whatever. Look, you know.
True.
Talk about the pot calling the kettle black there, Jolly
Exactly
Lee.
right. I knew Jolly.
yeah, I know, right? I had to go really, really simple to give you one win this year.
Yeah.
And of course, we have crew questions.
Yeah, we did. We received a question this week from Sophie wanting to know if South African crew are able to enter St. Martin at this time. Unfortunately, Sophie, it's not good news at the moment. South Africa still on the banned list. And as far as I'm aware, there are currently no exemptions in place for crew to enter into St. Martin. So I do apologise. I know it's the Caribbean season, but yeah, there's nothing in place at the moment for South African crew to be able to enter.
See, and that's the really confusing thing, because I know with the Caribbean, and it, as you said, it is the Caribbean season right now, but I mean, there's so many different countries that govern different islands within the Caribbean. And of course, it is different for just every single island of how you can get in, who you get in through, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I'm pretty sure South Africa is probably stricken across every list on the face of the planet. But it is confusing with places like the Caribbean.
Oh, it's extremely confusing. Yeah, you know, there are, like you say, there's so many islands, you know, that especially the yachts can travel, you know, in between and all the rest of it. So for crew to get there, it's difficult. I do have a little bit of issue with South Africa being banned from everywhere now, especially when Omicron is in 98 other countries. It does seem a little bit unfair and unjust, I've got to say. That's my own opinion, especially when you've got countries like the UK whose numbers are doubling every day, but they're still allowed in. It makes no sense to me at all. But that's a whole nother story.
I know. Well, Queen of the World. See, I got that in twice. I'm really proud of myself.
Well done.
I think there was one week where I didn't actually get that in at all. So I'm just trying to make up for the Queen of the World thing.
I think you've done it. I think you've covered it this week.
You know what? I have to say, whether or not you are a believer in Christmas or just the fact that it's a wonderful holiday, I want to say to all of our viewers and listeners out there, I hope that you have an absolutely amazing season filled with love, life, laughter, presents, whatever it is that you do over the season, and yourself as well, Lee.
Oh, thank you ever so much. And to you too as well, Ria. You know, it's only, what do we say, 6 days away? It's creeped up on a year, isn't it? So, yeah, happy holidays to everybody.
Yeah, well, and wherever you may be, let's hope it's a safe one. And there's no more bad news when it comes to this virus taking over our Christmas season. Yeah, once again, I have to say that Crew Travel is brought to you weekly by Blue Marine Travel, who haven't lost a passenger since Lee Harris and I were born back in the late 1900s. And Merry Christmas, Lee.
Merry Christmas to you too, Ria. Have a good one.
My name is Ria. I've been your host. We'll see you again next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we're boarding passengers seated in zones E and F.